Welcome to the Globetrottin ADs. This podcast is for you, athletic directors, activity coordinators, coaches, and program associates based in international schools around the world. The Globetrottin ADs is proudly hosted by Nick DeForest from the American International School Vienna and Matt Fleming from the American International School of Budapest. Here they are now, Nick and Matt and the Globetrottin ADs.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's podcast of the Globetrottin ADs. We're happy to be back once again. Today we have a special guest. We have Jen Brooks from St. Louis, Missouri. Jen is the AD at Ursuline Academy, an all-girls college prep school there. She's also the founder of Global Community of Women in High School Sports, so we're going to learn about that. She's the 2021 winner of the NIAAA Bruce Whitehead Distinguished Service Award, and also has been a recipient of the Missouri Interscholastic Athletic Administrator Association Athletic Director of the Year, the first private school AD to be chosen, and only the second woman all time to get that award. So very distinguished. We're very happy to have her here and learn about her initiatives. But before we get into our interview with Jen, I want to say hello to Nick in Vienna. And how you doing, Nick?
Yes. Hi, Matt. Hi, Jen. Thanks for the intro, Matt. Very, very thankful to have you with us today. I know you do a lot of podcasts for awesome reasons, which is why we wanted to have you on. And I think our community of international school ADs maybe not in touch with everything that you do. So we want them to be. So thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate this.
You're welcome. Well, just before we dig into the things you're doing right now, let's try to get to know you a little bit more. And I've read that you were a 3-sport athlete in university. Which is amazing. I think I'm amazing, and I was at 1. So 3-sport athlete. That's awesome. But just wondered if you have any top athletic moment or personal highlight from that time.
Well, it wasn't meant to be, or wasn't the plan anyway, to be a 3-sport athlete. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, and then I was recruited to play basketball. Okay. And the coach knew that I also played, the basketball coach also coached soccer, and he knew that I had played soccer. And he's like, right before my freshman year started, he said, "Hey, Jen, we've got some injuries. Can you just help us out for a few weeks?" And I'm like, okay, sure. Well, I ended up loving it. So I stayed on and I played, and then I played basketball, and the softball coach saw me play basketball and soccer. And he's like, "Hey, I heard you played softball. Will you play softball?" And I was like, "Sure." So I did that. To make things even more crazy, I graduated in 3 years. So instead of the normal 4, I did it in 3 years. And so then that 4th year, then I returned as the assistant coach. Oh, cool. So yeah. And I met my husband. He was on the men's soccer team. So that's probably the most memorable thing, is I met my husband.
Oh, perfect.
What school was that?
Maryville University in St. Louis.
Okay.
Hey, that's something we try to preach to our students all the time. You never know where sports is going to lead you, keep playing, try new things. And there you go. Yeah. You found a husband because you played sports.
Yeah.
Connection.
Well, and I'll tell you too, to add on to that, I hurt my knee playing basketball or playing soccer. So I couldn't play basketball 1 year. And I'd asked my coach, who was the athletic director, said, "Hey, can you help me find a job since I can't play?" Yeah. And he got me a job at the high school down the street as the gym supervisor. Okay. So the first day I'm there on the job as a gym supervisor, I have my brace on my knees, in a cast, and I got my crutches, and I'm sitting there doing my homework, watching the gym. And I hear the athletic director at the high school say, "I need a freshman basketball coach like now." So I was like, "Wait, I can do this." So I hop over and I'm like, "I can do this." And she's like, "You're hired." So I coached freshman basketball at this high school when I was like 19 years old. So that was, that's the whole, like you said, you never know. Who would have thought that journey ended, took me to where I am today? Because truly it's all connected.
Yeah,
for sure.
Wow, that's really cool. Those connections. Yeah, you never know. Well, how did then that connection go further into becoming an AD?
Yeah. So I worked at that high school for 2 years, graduated from college. And then I went to another high school. I applied there. My plan was to be a high school religion teacher. That's what I thought I was going to do. Wow. And coach probably, because I thought those were two ways to be impactful on a young person's life, because to me, that was important. That's why I was getting into education, because I wanted to have this positive impact. So I'm at Ursuline and I'm 21, so I'm super young. And in fact, the nun that hired me looked me up and down and said, "Jen, you look healthy. Why don't you teach health as well?" So I taught health and I taught theology, which teaching that health then got me into the PE department, which got me connected with the athletic director. And I told her, I said, "Listen, this is really cool what you're doing. If I can help in any way, let me know." Well, fast forward a year and she had a really complicated pregnancy and she had to step away from being an athletic director. I stepped into the role, and that was 26 years ago, and I haven't looked back.
Jeez.
Wow. Yeah, and all at the same school, right? That's
really... right? Unheard of probably, but I love Ursuline. I love being there.
Yeah, you've been involved with private education for most of your time, right? And was that something you had hoped to go into when you were coming up to university, or were you kind of open-minded as to whatever would happen would happen?
I think that probably that's where my comfort level lies, simply because that's what I knew. I'd always gone to a private school. I grew up and my dad was a teacher, a coach, a principal, president, an official, all that kind of stuff in the private school world. So that's what I knew. So that's where I was comfortable with.
Yeah. That's I myself went to Catholic high school, Catholic grade school, even at Catholic University of Dayton. It didn't work out that way, but I thought, I could probably end up working in a private school as well. I actually went back to my old high school as well. Worked for a little while as teaching summer school PE and a little bit of substitution, but in the end, my career path went public, and then eventually I went into international schools, which are essentially private schools as well. So. I never thought it'd be a calling, but it's kind of worked out that way. So it's just interesting to hear that, you're coming up through that atmosphere and that community. It's really community based too, when you're getting into these private schools. So it's a very tight knit community, and people are really responsive to each other, and it's a great place to be, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And I literally live right next door to my high school. So I can see out my office window, I can see my house, and out my kitchen window, I can see my office window. So
perfect. Go home for lunch.
I do actually. Yeah. Just don't tell my boss.
Well, if he goes to your office and you're not there, all he has to do is look through the window and see if he sees you. Right?
Okay, you're right. But the good thing is my walkie-talkie reaches my kitchen table, so I'm still connected.
Wow. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
So in this time as being AD there, it's been at the same place. But what's been probably your highlight so far in your career span there at Ursuline?
Just connecting with these young. So I'm at an all-girls school, so watching them mature throughout the years. From them going from my students to young adults, coming back to coach for me. It's been awesome. I was lucky enough that our daughter Nora went to Ursuline, and so seeing that perspective in my house of what a student athlete was actually living was huge for me. And then a few years after she graduated, she became one of my coaches. So she's on staff for me right now. Oh, wow. So that's another great thing for me, because where one of my coaches might not feel comfortable saying, "Hey, Jen, maybe you should do this instead, or have you thought about this?" Nora will 100% say, "I think this is not working well. Let's talk about how we can do this different." And I appreciate that. And also seeing her and having those conversations with her, it reminds me of the work that all of my staff is doing, and it keeps it at the forefront of what I'm doing every day. So I appreciate that.
Right. Wow, that's great. And what you're describing is kind of like an international school, kind of like where we are. Communities live usually really close to the school. Kids go to the same school as their parents teach at, and it's really beneficial to see that. I know my outlook changed. I have a middle school daughter now and a fifth grader, and my outlook changed a ton once they started going to the school and were involved in the programs that I'm leading.
Well, Nora, I have a son and I have a daughter. So Nora doesn't have a sister, but I like to say that the Ursuline sisterhood, that's her sister. So she has thousands of sisters, and we have an Ursuline. We're global. We have Ursulines all over the world. So she has Ursuline sisters all over the world. So I like that.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, you just said global. So let's go into our, the main part, the main thing that we want to share with our community is the global community of women in high school sports. And that came to be, I think, about the same time as the Globetrottin ADs. But tell us a bit more how that started.
Yeah. So, for years, I would go to these meetings and I was the only woman in the room, or one of the few. And it was a really lonely space and time for me. And I got super frustrated, and I just was tired of it. So I reached out to a couple organizations and said, hey, can you create space for women in high school sports in your organizations? And they said no. So I said, okay, I will create my own space. And so I created a global community of women in high school sports. It started off just through a couple connections. I had some women that we were talking, and okay, what do we do? How do we do this? We went to Maryland in 2019 for the National ADs Conference. And I had brought Nora with me at that time. And I told her, okay, you get a free trip to Maryland, but you have to go around and collect as many email addresses from every single female you can find. Okay. And she did that, and we hosted a happy hour, and we walked away from that with just pages and pages of emails and just total excitement. People were saying, Jen, this is what we need. This is so great. I want to learn more. Okay, cool. So we get back from Maryland. We have this, small group of women thinking, okay, we've got all this info now. We've got the excitement. We've got the energy. Where do we go from here? What do we do? And COVID hit. Yeah. I will tell you, my mantra is this is good. So I always find the good in everything. And I will tell you, COVID was good for the global community, because at a time in our mind and space where we thought we were only going to be able to connect once a year at the national conference, we found this crazy thing called Zoom. And so we started connecting. So I was hosting a weekly call on Zoom every week to talk. And we had ADs from all over the country. And just sharing, how do we get through this? How do we deal with this? What are you, how are you being safe? All these things. Right. And that's where we made our mark. And then it grew to the space where, okay, we need to formalize this. We need to, have an executive council. I created a website. We got a little business education from a grant we got. So that was pretty cool. And so we're about 300 members. Men are an important part of this piece. So men are definitely members of our organization. We are for anybody, but mostly athletic directors, coaches, athletic trainers, and those aspiring to be, because we're that space for those people as well.
Right. Great.
And what are some of the things you guys are doing then so far, or since the launch?
So we've got, instead of going weekly, we've gone monthly now. We call them our monthly office hours. So once a month, I host a Zoom where I'll bring in some speakers who will share either a life story that we can learn from, or an opportunity, or an event, or anything that can make us better people, or better athletic directors, or better for our students. So we do that. We have a mentoring program. We are just trying to create awareness. We have state leaders. So we're trying to grow out into the states and get everybody to know us globally. Any global ADs listening, we would love for you to be on our call. We have just a couple global ADs right now, but we'd love to grow that. So the idea really is that there's a space for women in high school sports. So that when you go to the conferences, when you go to the meetings, you go with confidence and you go knowing that you will be accepted. It's also creating awareness and teaching the men that we work with what it feels like to be us in that space. And so that's been really huge. And I love it. Like before, I would hate going to the national conference because I just really felt alone. I didn't know anybody. I felt invisible. When I go to the national conference now, I'm so excited because I've met all these great people, male and females. And so it's awesome.
Wow, that's really great. That energy you spoke of, the pandemic hits and then you're energized because you can meet more often and do more things. And I think Matt and I felt the same way with our community.
We had a good momentum going there for the first little while. So it was a good way to move and work through the initial onset of the pandemic and uncertainty of it all, just to keep everything on a positive note and keeping ourselves relevant as well in terms of with sports being shut down and everything happening. It was a good way for us to keep connected for sure.
Yeah. And I like that word connected, because I never had that when I was younger. I never had that when I was starting out. So for me, that's the most important thing that the global community does, is it keeps us connected. So I know that I can pick up the phone or Zoom or whatever, text anybody. And I got people out there cheering me on, who are going to hear me when I want to cry, who are going to hear me when I want to, yell and scream, and are going to hear, cheer me on and say, hey, good job, Jen. So that connected piece is so important.
Are you reaching out also to coaches or educators?
Absolutely.
So
yes.
I'm wondering, have you made inroads to like university programs or anything with dealing with educators or students in university who are trying to become educators? And could your organization be of any benefit for them?
I definitely think that's an option, and I would love that. The problem I run into with the global community is that I'm also a full-time athletic director, and the global community is a full-time job as well. And so how do I balance this? And so if anybody on the call is listening and wants to help get those inroads going for us at the university level, I would appreciate it. Reach out.
Yeah, that's funny. That's it, right? Your pandemic was over. Well, kind of over, where you get to go back and play sports again, but then all these great things that you started are going stronger and more than ever. So it's time, right? It's to balance everything.
Exactly.
Well, you said about how going to the conference now is so nice and energetic, and that's very different for you now. Is there anything else that's really surprising or really great that you didn't expect that's come out of the global community so far?
I will say the men that support us has been awesome. And to hear their stories, that has been, I guess I would say I didn't realize or didn't think that there were that many men cheering us on. That had been my experience when I walked into these rooms. And they ignored me, literally ignored me. So I thought, how could these men possibly want to be my friend or cheer me on or support me? And when I found the confidence to find my voice and to make that space and let it be known that I'm here in this space, I deserve to be in this space, you will hear me, that the men are like, yeah, I do want to hear you. So that's been pretty awesome.
That's great. Well, I'm excited. I have a daughter. She's in 10th grade, and she's an athlete as well. And she's three-sport player and pretty active and pretty good student. And my wife's also a coach. She's one of our coaches at our school, 3 sports per year. So it's great to hear that you're making these inroads and that you can be a resource for them. So I'm happy to be associated and know more about this. You mentioned also about international. You've made some inroads with international ADs. Anything you want to share about that, or how that's progressed, or who's out there in the international world working with you?
Yeah, I mean, we just have a couple ADs, so not many, but we'd love to spread our wings. I'm all about being inclusive. I don't want anybody to feel left out. And just because you're overseas or far away doesn't mean we still can't connect and help each other out. So I think that's so important. And I think it's cool because we have different perspectives and we have different situations and we can learn from each other. And I find it fascinating to talk about, oh, that's how you do things over there. Here's how we do things here. And I can still, even though you might do it different, I can still learn from you. Right. We try to make sure that everything that we do is supported online on our website, so that maybe you can't make our global call, but it's recorded. So you can catch it on the recording.
Okay. I've been thinking about how many, because I have a lot of great friends and colleagues that are female ADs around the world, and I've been working with them for years. Obviously, it's not the same number. It's not 50-50. I was really thinking about it, and international ADs around the world, there's not that many of us. And I mean, I don't have the stats, but I really think it's about 20%, maybe 20 out of 100. So I'm interested, what do you think the percent of female ADs in the US is?
I would think it's similar, if not even worse than that, When I think about it here in my own state, it's minuscule. Okay. But that's where what we need to focus on right now is that we have so many men in executive level spaces. We need to get more women in those executive level spaces, because that's when the change will happen.
Right.
and or creating, awareness to the men in those executive level spaces that, hey, it might be time for you to say, you know what, Jen, you should sit in my chair now. Right. Like, what if we could do that? How cool would that be?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's when change can happen. That's when people are going to say, okay, if Jen's doing it, I can do it. If I can see it, I can be it. But if we look and see all we see are men, why would I think I could fit or want to even be in that space?
Right. You wouldn't enjoy it. Maybe you wouldn't even enjoy it when you get there. That would be one thing you think about, right?
Exactly. I mean, I didn't enjoy it for years. And I was like, if I'm going to keep doing this, something's got to change.
Mm-hmm.
So I changed it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I have two questions from friends of ours that are female ADs. And I want to ask you for them these questions. And the first one's from Alia. She's the AD in Sarajevo, and she's actually the chair of our big CISA organization. So she's been the chair for a couple of years now. She says, as you know, women hold fewer leadership positions in sports. Do you think it's changing overall, or just really a few individual cases here and there?
I do think it's changing, yes, but at a snail's pace. And for this impatient person that I am, it's certainly not happening fast enough. Right. But it is changing, so that's a good thing. But we have to keep breaking those doors down. We have to keep working hard. We need more guys to jump on board to help us bang those doors down. So, yes, I'm optimistic that it's changing.
Yeah, that's great. And with obviously your organization and highlighting these needs, right?
100%.
Matt, you mentioned you have a daughter. I have a daughter, and it's not just because we should have more female ADs for role models for the athletes that are below them, right? It just goes down. So I have my daughter Nora, so I say that that's my why. But my son Luke, that's in some ways even more my why, and more important, because it's important that for Luke to grow up seeing me in these spaces of leadership, in these spaces in general. Excuse me. And so that's normal for him, so that when he's in those spaces and he can look around and say, well, it's abnormal that a woman's not here. He grew up thinking it's normal for women to be in those spaces. True. So, that's what we need to do too, as parents. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Great. Thank you for that. Okay. My other question is from Kirsten Bender, and she's been head of PE, assistant AD for a while, and really trying to get an AD job. And she just did. So she was just hired to be an AD at a school called UWC in Thailand next year. So she's excited. And she wants to know maybe a top tip for someone starting out in a new role who's possibly the only female in the league.
Well, she just joined the Global Community of Women High School Sports. So she accomplished the number one top tip that I would tell people: join the Global Community of Women High School Sports. But that's just it, is connect with someone. I think it's important to connect with someone locally, but it's also connect with someone, farther away, who can give you a complete different perspective. Don't be afraid to connect. I think my younger self was too afraid to connect, too afraid to be authentic. Mm-hmm. I'm authentic now. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect, but I'm learning, I'm growing, and I'm connecting. And I'm a better athletic director because of that.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. Super. And I didn't know that. So that's perfect.
Yeah, she just joined a couple of days ago and we talked. So I'm super excited.
That's great. Great.
So with the Global Community of Women in High School Sports, what's on the horizon, or what do you got going on for 2022?
Oh gosh, it all depends on how much time I end up having, and if we get an influx of cash, because money, you need money to get these things going. But looking for more members. I guess I just want to extend our reach. So to me, that's one of the big things right now is getting the word out there, getting more members, mm-hmm. And then helping everybody. So I always ask, what do you need from us? What kind of programming can we provide? What kind of support can we give? So we're looking right now into making a big push into the state conferences. So every state in the United States has an actual state conference. And so how can we represent at those state conferences? And then of course, today's National Girls and Women Sports Day, February 2nd. Today's February 2nd. I had to figure that out. But so National Girls and Sports Day. And then also in June is the 50th anniversary of Title IX. Mm-hmm. So, what we're doing is, sharing our stories, sharing our journeys, reminding people the impact of being a woman in sport. And, we're certainly standing on the shoulders of the women who've gone before us. So we appreciate that and we thank them for that. And I know that I've got people on my shoulders, and so I got to work hard for them as well. So that's what we're focusing on this coming year.
Great. So on your website, your personal website, jenbrooks.com, it says the power to inspire, create, and claim space for everyone. It's such a great statement. And is this your personal purpose statement or something that drives you or something you're weaving in and out every day of your work life and how you're connecting with folks?
It is absolutely how I am trying to, create space. That's how I live my life. And we were at Mass the other day, and the priest, was talking about how they're not going to have enough priests to cover, the parishes in the next, some odd years. And then I'm, elbowing my husband going, well, if they would let women become priests, this wouldn't be a problem. And he's like, not now, not now. So yes, I love my Catholic faith, but I am always thinking, how can we create space for everybody?
Yeah.
Coach Evaluator is the premier coach evaluation software for schools and athletic organizations and preferred coach evaluation solution of the NIAAA and the Positive Coaching Alliance. The system is completely customizable with an always growing evaluation template library for athletic directors to reference. There are not only evaluations for ADs to use, but also self-evaluations and parent-player evaluations of coaches. Learn more about digitizing and simplifying your coach evaluation process by visiting www.coachevaluator.com. Mention Globetrottin ADs to receive a $200 discount on the yearly rate.
Kukri are a global multi-sport clothing brand specializing in providing the world's most prestigious schools with bespoke made and designed team uniforms for students of all standards and abilities. If you are frustrated by inconsistent colors, branding, costs, and sizing across your school's uniforms, then it's time to discuss an offering where every sport is available from softball to soccer for male and female athletes at rates to suit your budget. To find out how Kukri could elevate the apparel of your student athletes to a professional level, email the team at contact@kukrisports.com. A dedicated sales manager will offer you a quote today. Mention this ad and receive a special offer on your coach or PE staff order. Well, you mentioned about reaching out global and getting more members, so I really hope this podcast and me sending out the info and the links and everything to our community helps that. Like you said, with the males as well as the females. But let us know where should they go? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so we have our website, globalcommunitywomeninsports.com. You can reach me at jen@jenbrooks.com because that's easy to remember.
For sure.
We're on Twitter, we're on social media. Reach out. I am happy to connect, and I'd love to connect.
All right. Well, to wrap it up, one of the things we love to do, and we're always talking to folks from all over the world, although the last few times it's been USA based, Nick. We've had people from Florida last couple of times, and now we have St. Louis. So one of the things we like to talk about or ask our guests is what's something that's cool to do where you're from in your area. So for us for you would be St. Louis. What's some of your favorite things to do or see in St. Louis, or maybe something good to eat there and check out if we ever make our way to St. Louis?
So you definitely have to check out the St. Louis Arch. It's the gateway to the Midwest. So you have to Google that if you're not familiar with it. It's this crazy structure. You actually can go to the very top of it. I have been, and it actually sways when the wind's blowing. It sways. I will probably not go back up there ever again, but it was nice when I did it. So you have to check out the Gateway Arch. I love my St. Louis Cardinals. So I have to shout out about them. And then one of the things that people probably internationally will not understand is toasted ravioli. So St. Louis is known for toasted ravioli. And it's delicious. And I probably will have some on my snow day because they're just in the freezer. You just throw them in and you eat them. Yeah. Toasted ravioli. Cool. Check it out. Google that. And then when you come to St. Louis, I'll make you some.
There you go. Well, I've been up the Arch and I've been to a St. Louis Cardinals game, but I have never heard of toasted ravioli. So I will Google that when we're done.
Definitely.
Very cool. Well, yeah, Jen, thanks again for taking the time to be with us, and for all the work you're doing for everyone around the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me into your space and at your table. I appreciate that.
We enjoyed having you, and all the best for the global community of women in high school sports. So again, check it out on their website and learn more about it and get involved. There's a space for you there.
Until next week, this has been another episode of the Globetrottin ADs.